"We're here, sir." The voice of the driver shook Gabriel back to reality as the car pulled into the driveway. Gabriel groaned with frustration and his eyes fluttered from his failed attempt at a short nap. He handed the driver a tip, opened the door, stood up, stretched, and watched as the car pulled out of the drive before turning to face his house. "I'm so glad to be back home," he thought to himself. He always thought it was funny how often he wanted to get away for a trip, and while he cherished them immensely, he always loved the feeling of returning to Chattanooga. Hiking through the Appalachians was always an enjoyable challenge, but Gabriel needed a moment to truly relax. He still had a few days before he had to return to work at the museum, and he fully intended on making the most of them. As he began to walk up the driveway, Gabriel heard a voice greet him. "Welcome home, Gabriel," Rosemary called out to him. "Oh, hey there! It's good to be back," he replied and gave her a smile and wave. Rosemary and her friend Kathy had both been sitting on the front porch next door, but stopped their conversation upon his arrival and walked over to greet Gabriel. "Hello, Rosemary's neighbor," Kathy jokingly greeted as she walked up next to her friend. Gabriel chuckled. "Hey, Kathy. Good to see you two." "How was your flight?" Rosemary asked. Short-ish. Honestly, I probably could have just driven, but it's always fun to fly." Gabriel let out a sigh and rubbed his neck. "I just wish I could have gotten some sleep. I'm exhausted." "It's the jet lag." "Well, in the hiking for 100 miles, probably," Kathy told him. "Probably both. How was Mickey?" Gabriel asked Rose, who suddenly looked slightly flustered. "Oh, she was good. Everything went great. Took her for a walk a few times and went to the dog park. She's such a good girl." "She definitely did not run out into the road and get hit by a car," Kathy randomly blurted out, causing Rosemary's eyes to widen and turn to face her friend. Gabriel suddenly felt very concerned. "What? That didn't actually happen, right? She's okay?" he asked them. "Oh, she's fine," Kathy quickly responded. "Sorry, just a lame joke. My bad." "Good." Gabriel chuckled slightly and breathed a sigh of relief. "Thanks for taking care of her. You mind if I stop by tomorrow and I can drop off the payment?" Rosemary frantically shook her head and hands. "No, it was no trouble at all. No need to pay me for it." "Oh, well, I feel like I should. I was gone for like 2 weeks. "No, seriously, I insist. You keep your money. That way you can begin saving for your next trip. It was just a pleasure to be in Mickey's company." Gabriel laughed. "Well, you insist. Just let me know if there's anything I can do for you in the future." "Will do. Get some sleep. You look really tired." "I will if I can. I've always had such horrible insomnia. It seems to always get worse when I travel. Hopefully my body will just crash the second I lay down. Although, I feel like it may be up for a while anyways. It's just the way it is. I get sleep whenever I can." Gabriel turned away from them after they finished their conversation and walked through the front door of his home, where he was instantly greeted by Mickey, who slid across the wooden floor to greet him. "Hey, Mickey! Hey, girl! Hey! It's so good to see you again! Did you miss me? Huh? Did you? Oh, you good little weirdo, Puggo." Gabriel was right, of course. After a quick shower and hopping in his bed, he had hoped that sleep would have come soon. But even as tired as he was, it just simply never happened. He had tossed and turned and even eaten a melatonin gummy, but nothing was working. It didn't take too long before he gave up in frustration and went to his kitchen to brew some chamomile tea, hoping that the soothing drink would help him relax. Gabriel also decided to try another method, and after looking up some music on his phone, he went into his small study to find a book to read. Maybe this will work, he thought to himself as he searched the small bookshelf. Most of the books here were unread, and only a couple he was partway through. But those were a bit intense, and he didn't feel like reading them at the moment. Victory at all costs? No. It's good, but a bit too bleak. What we felt was real? Ugh, man, that's just too depressing. Opalescent? Nah. A light in the darkness? Maybe. As Gabriel looked over the books and pondered which story to read, his curiosity began to pull him towards something else. Gabriel's eyes shifted slowly to his backpack lying on the table near him. Hesitation and worry held him at bay for a moment before he walked over and pulled from the bag Adam's journal. He stared at the beautiful cover for a moment before slowly sitting down in the study's chair, where Mickey joined him by hopping up into his lap. "Hey, Mickey," he said to the dog and scratched her head. "Want me to read to you from this book that gave me an existential crisis? Huh? Yeah." The dog turned its head and stared at him with puggy confusion. Gabriel smiled and opened the book up. Okay, where to start? He found himself skimming over several entries before finding one that called to him. He passed over one entry that described a slave trying to escape from a living ship in the Caribbean. One that described some event in the future involving invisible drug addicts. One about a surfer with cancer in the 80s. A city full of cursed skeletons, and it's my name again. This one is about me. Gabriel leaned forward as he began to read. This entry mentioned a store in Oregon, a curiosity shop of sorts that sold and traded in magical items and relics. What? He thought to himself. A place like this exists? It was strange reading from the journal, the entry written out as if he himself was the one recounting this moment. But not only had he never written this, the moment itself seemed to have never even happened yet. When Gabriel checked the date, it said it would occur exactly 1 month from now. This is so strange, and definitely what I should not be reading right now. Ah, great. I'll be up all night now. The morning sun had slowly risen, without Gabriel noticing, before he finally set the book aside. His mind and body tired, but his thoughts were consumed by the lost knowledge within this book. He knew he would have to put it away and try his best to avoid reading it from now on. I don't know if humans should know what their future holds. I almost feel like I'm cheating at life. But what it said in there, is it really going to happen? I wonder what would actually happen if I never went through with what was written down. Would something change? Is that even possible? Gabriel stood and began to wander through the house and out the back door. The man planted his feet in his backyard and stared up into the sky at the clouds passing overhead. And where's this Donovan guy? When Jackson and I first read from the journal, it mentioned that we read some entries and then give it to a man named Donovan. But we never encountered him. I wonder who he is. And when he comes into the picture. I wonder if it's just the next person I meet with that name. Or maybe I'll know when I see him. Maybe it's one of those kind of things. Or should I go out looking for him? So many questions. And in that entry, it mentioned I fly in and land in front of the shop. What the hell does that mean? Well, I guess in 1 month I'll know. Oh man, this is so much. My head is starting to hurt. Gabriel stood with his eyes closed, silently contemplating profound thoughts that drew from a deep well of curiosity. And because of this, he missed what flew over him and landed beyond the border of his fence. A sudden sound caused him to jump slightly and quickly turn to face Rosemary's yard. Through the wooden divider, came a bright light, one that peeked through the gaps of the boards with piercing rays. Gabriel cautiously wandered over to the fence and tried to peer through the holes, but could not make out what was happening in his neighbor's garden. What in the world is that? He thought, and began to stand on his tiptoes to look over the wall. As he did, however, the bright light began to rise from Rosemary's backyard and lifted into the air, where it began to dim. Gabriel staggered back and held his hand over his squinting eyes, which strained hard to focus on the form that slowly visualized in front of him. His mouth had fallen open in shock and surprise when he realized it was a person floating in the air. A woman, unimaginably beautiful. Her hair was blonde, long and wispy. Her features, a perfection that no human could ever achieve. She wore a sleeveless split-skirt forest green gown, and from her back waved two white feathery wings that slowly and silently pushed the ground away from her. Golden particles and flecks of light fell from her as she lifted herself even higher into the air with her beating wings. Is she an angel? Almost as if she had heard his thoughts, her enchanting, glowing green eyes turned and noticed Gabriel, whose heart skipped a beat. He lowered his hand as he stared, completely transfixed on her beauty and holding a hidden desire for this otherworldly moment to never end. They both curiously watched each other for a long moment before the angel cocked her head slightly, her golden hair spilling away from her in the waving wind, moving as if in slow motion. Her perfect lips suddenly expressed the most beautiful and heartwarming smile Gabriel had ever seen, before she suddenly launched into the air, disappearing into the clouds above. As Gabriel stared up after her, his eyes caught an object slowly descending behind her, twirling and gliding through the air until it landed in Gabriel's waiting hands. It was a feather. Beautiful and white, a power of purity and light radiated from it as Gabriel held the almost weightless object in his palm. The feather was easily the softest material he had ever felt, and he could see what looked like a gold dust coating the entirety of it, which glittered as it caught the light of the morning sun. What in the world did I just witness? Gabriel, still stunned by what had occurred, suddenly found himself in his bedroom, lying down after absent-mindedly wandering through his home. He had placed the feather next to him on his nightstand and continued to stare at it in amazement. Was that real? Or was I seeing things? Or am I dreaming? Seriously, what just happened? Was she real? If so, who was she? I want to know. Gabriel began to feel the comforting and soothing waves of sleep began to pull at him, and he soon felt his eyes close while this train of thought ran its course. Still barely awake, he breathed in a deep breath, and when he exhaled, Gabriel found himself silently drifting among the clouds, weightless, gliding in between the formless formations in this world of white. Blue winds calmly wrapping him in a gentle embrace as they carried the man within the currents of the skies. The coolness of the air and the warmth of the sun. Perfection. Below, he could see his shadow occasionally joining in with his dance through the sky as he skimmed across a field of rolling white, stretching forever and beyond. This feeling was pure bliss, something he never wanted to end. When Gabriel opened his eyes, he noticed a distant light of gold, flashing far beyond the horizon. A light that quickly rushed to meet him, and just as he reached out with his hand, Gabriel woke with a start. The sudden and familiar feeling of falling in his sleep jerked the man awake, and he fell 5 feet to his bed with a crash. The air left his lungs as he hit the mattress, the sudden weight causing the whole bed to break and collapse. Mickey jumped from her dog bed with a sudden bark, trying to figure out what had just happened to her human master. Gabriel groaned in pain as he slowly pulled himself away from the wreckage. Ow! Ow! Ah! What the heck was that? Luckily for Gabriel, the man had gotten a few hours of much-needed rest before he woke in such an alarming way. He couldn't figure out for the life of him what had happened, but eventually chalked it up to sleepwalking. Although he had only done that a couple of times in his life, both of them happening after trying different varieties of sleeping medications. Once, when he was a teenager, he had woken up in his brother's closet, apparently singing a wordless song, which scared the shit out of his brother. The second time, he had found himself wandering through the woods and was halfway to some old woman's house that lived out there all alone. That one really freaked him out. If the moon had not been full that night, Gabriel would have been unable to find his way back home by the light of it. He remembered how confused and concerned his dad had looked when he wandered in the back door, still in his underwear. I guess that makes 3 times now, Gabriel silently muttered to himself as he stared at his broken bed. Guess I'll have to go out and buy a new one. He sighed and shook his head. Oh well. As Gabriel began to walk down the stairs, he let out an annoyed sigh and suddenly felt his foot miss the step from under him. The man barely managed to catch the railing as he fell, which nearly pulled the whole thing out of the wall. Startled, he quickly stood and finished his descent. Can I get a break? Please? I don't want to have to pay to fix anything else today. After a brief shopping trip, Gabriel walked into his kitchen where he grabbed some cucumber, fresh dill, cream cheese, and bread. He decided to make one of his favorite meals, a simple cucumber sandwich. After assembling his breakfast, Gabriel took a bite and slowly began to chew, ignoring the begging coming from Mickey. No, Mickey, he told the pug. You can't have any more food. You're on a diet. The pug then began to use its greatest strength, puggy dog eyes, which of course Gabriel instantly surrendered to them, for how could one resist such mighty powers? Mickey quickly gobbled up the cucumber with a smear of cream cheese and stared at her master for more. But Gabriel was lost in his thoughts, his eyes staring out the back window into his yard. Was that really real? He asked himself. Then he remembered. The man put his meal down, quickly ran up the stairs to his room, and looked at his nightstand. The white feather still lay there, perfectly untouched. Gabriel approached and carefully picked it up. He took a long moment to study it, flipping it over and over with his fingers. The man found himself almost hypnotized by the memory of the morning's encounter. Who was she? He found himself thinking, and he sat down on the edge of his broken bed. A small smile made its way across his face. I've never seen anyone like her before. She was so beautiful. The most beautiful woman I've ever seen. A long, forgotten, yet familiar sensation spread within his stomach, a rarity in his life, like butterflies. I wish I could see her again. Talk to her. He breathed out a longing breath, and when he did, his body lifted away from his bed, and he rose into the air. Whoa! What? What the? What? Shit! What the fuck? What is this? What? Gabriel frantically reached for something to grab. His lamp? Which lifted away in his grasp and unplugged itself from the wall. He quickly let go, which caused the lamp to fall and shatter against the floor. Gabriel suddenly found his back pressed up flat against the ceiling. What the fuck? It was obviously quite unusual for a human to stare at the floor from this position, so Gabriel began to silently freak out as he tried to figure out what to do next. Maybe I can push myself off of the ceiling, away like they do in the movies, like in Zero Gravity? Yeah, that should work, right? Gabriel placed his hands and feet against the ceiling, and after giving a slight push, he found himself meeting the ground with the flats of his feet. A moment passed as he held his breath. Is it good? Am I good? He slowly let out a breath of relief. And began to feel the weight leave from him again. His body pulled up and away from the floor. No, not again! He said out loud, and was surprised when his weight suddenly returned. Gabriel's moment of confusion lasted for quite a while before he spoke up. Was I flying? Or just floating, or like levitating? What was that? Was this because of the feather? It has to be. Gabriel walked over to stare at the angel's feather again, this time with some uncertainty. Is this happening because I touched the feather once, or only if I touched the feather? To test this theory, Gabriel stayed away from it as long as he could, downstairs in his living room. He made sure to pull the curtains closed, obviously not wanting his neighbors to see him floating around. The man paced back and forth nervously, trying to figure out how to trigger this flying power. Okay, so the first time happened when I was sleeping. The second time, it was in my bedroom. Okay, so both times were in there. Wait, can it only happen in there? Well, that can't be it. Or maybe it is. No, but I feel like I'm missing something. There's got to be something else. Another condition or variable. Oh, man. Gabriel stopped pacing and sighed. His body lightly lifted before he locked his feet back into place. The sudden realization flooded Gabriel. It's breath. Breathing. That's it. The first time, I was sleeping. The second time, when I was walking downstairs, I sighed and my foot, it didn't miss the step. I floated over it. And then the third time in my bedroom, and just now, every time was because of my breathing. So, breath controls it. Gabriel began to test this out, slowly finding ways to regulate and control his weightless lifts and drops. Before he knew it, he was almost swimming through the air in his home, flying from room to room with increasing speed. His laughter and joy filled the house as he circled around and around. Mickey chased her master back and forth, barking with concern the entire time. It took him several hours of testing this before Gabriel grew confident enough to try this new power outside, something that both excited and terrified him. For good reason. Okay, if I make a mistake, I'll die. It's that simple. It's a long drop. I'm only human. I'm not invincible. Oh, please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. Ooh, have a little confidence. Have a little faith in yourself, Gabriel. Okay, come on, man. You can do this. He began to pump himself up with confident thoughts while wandering back and forth across the yard, before finally taking a deep breath and exhaled, which slowly pushed him away from the earth. He was only a few feet above the ground, and already his nerves began to get to him. You can do this, Gabriel. He still started off small, slowly gliding across the grass and practicing sudden stops, just in case. His confidence grew as he picked up speed, making circles around his yard and then raising himself even higher off the ground. After about 30 minutes, he knew it was time. He knew he had to try. Gabriel swallowed nervously and took a few deep breaths, keeping his flight in control. And the ascent was sudden, but instead of the feeling of doubt weighing him down like an anchor, he found himself filled with rising glee as he took off into the sky. Gabriel could not restrain the feelings of childlike excitement and joy as he shot ever upward. The wind rushed around him, muting the laughter that came from his mouth. The rushing air threw his hair back and caused his eyes to water as it lashed at his face. Gabriel picked up speed and turned to face the ground below, his face expressing absolute amazement as the world fell away from him. Holy shit! This is amazing! He closed his eyes as he shot up even higher and higher, simply enjoying the sensation that flying brought to him. This is the most incredible feeling I have ever felt. Gabriel was above the clouds before he even realized it, slowly opening his eyes to a view that no human had ever seen. Well, at least like this. He stared in wonder at the endless ocean of white waves before him, the setting sun casting a pink glow across the churn. He watched as the clouds slowly rolled and shifted. His eyes fell from the blue of the sky above to the landless world below. This is incredible. Then his cell phone rang. Gabriel, confused, had to think for a moment before realizing what he was hearing. He had been so distracted that he had forgotten everything else in the world underneath the clouds. He chuckled as he pulled his cell phone out and stared at the caller ID. It was Jackson. "Hello?" Gabriel said as he answered the phone. The wind was making it hard to hear, so he switched it to speakerphone. "Jackson? Jackson? Can you hear me?" Yeah, man, barely. Where the heck are you? Sounds like you're in a wind tunnel or something," Jackson replied, his voice barely audible. "Oh, yeah, well, you probably wouldn't believe me, Gabriel told him as he floated above a slow-moving mountain of climbing cumulus clouds. He could see his shadow below on the fluffy white surface as he held the phone up to his ear and couldn't help but chuckle at the situation. Why wouldn't I? Dude, you found a book written by an alien in a magic tree in the woods. I think I'll believe anything you tell me at this point. Well, okay. I'm, flying. There was a brief pause. What do you mean, flying? Like, what, in a hang glider or something? No, more like a bird or superhero or something. What? Yeah, man, I, apparently can fly now. How? Well, I, had an encounter with, I don't know, an angel, I guess? There was another very long pause. You met an angel? Like, from heaven or something? I don't know. I mean, I guess so. She looked like an angel. She dropped a feather, and ever since I touched it, I could fly. The first time it happened, I was asleep. Had a dream I was flying, and now, well, here I am. Another long silence went by. Show me, Jackson ordered. Gabriel obliged and turned his camera on, slowly scanning the world above the clouds, his feet dangling over nothing, and finally turned the camera to face him, giving Jackson a little wave and chuckle. See? There was yet another long pause before Jackson let out a long sigh. Oh. Jesus, Gabriel. I was just calling to see how you were doing. Seeing how you were dealing with knowing what we know from reading that book. Been having a bit of a hard time acclimating to normal life again myself. Now, you're out there flying around and meeting angels and whatnot. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, does that mean that God is, like, definitely real? Like, confirmed? Should I start going to church again? I, honestly didn't think about that. And I don't know the answer to that. Maybe? Actually, oh man. We're starting to get into some heavy questions and answers. Before you know it, we'll know what the meaning of life is. Gabriel chuckled and Jackson let out a long groan before laughing. I mean, this is all absolutely amazing. It is, truly. But at the same time, it's kind of terrifying. I feel like we're learning about stuff that we shouldn't be. I kind of wish I hadn't called you. Jackson and Gabriel both laughed. Well, I'm glad you did. I wouldn't want to deal with this all by myself. This is a whole new world for us. Glad I'm not going into it alone. Gabriel spent the next 20 minutes flying and exploring this wondrous new world. All fears he had felt when he first stepped outside were gone, and the man was instead enjoying this astronomically rare moment of life. As he was gliding between two massive sunset-colored clouds, an out-of-place figure grabbed his attention as he shot by, which caused him to suddenly stop. Gabriel began to backtrack to search for what he saw, and floating in between the mountains of roiling white was the angel he saw that very morning. She smiled when she spotted him, and he did the same. Hi, he nervously greeted after a short pause. Her head tilted slightly, and her glowing green eyes scanned him up and down. Her wings gently pushed her towards him, and a slight chuckle found its way out of her mouth. It is always so amusing to see what humans do when given the power of flight.
something so simple for us brings so much joy to you. It's such an incredibly rare gift to bestow upon humans," she told Gabriel in the most angelic and melodic voice he had ever heard. The very sound of it caused his heart to melt, the beating of the butterfly wings in his stomach to grow stronger, and the breath to linger in his lungs. She watched him patiently as he gathered the strength to speak up. "So, you gave me this power. I'm guessing from the feather?" She nodded. "Not to sound ungrateful at all, but can I ask, why? Why me?" She flew even closer to Gabriel, stopping only 4 feet from him. Her proximity filled Gabriel with a feeling of anxiety and nervousness, but in a way that anyone would welcome. "You could see me," she replied and smiled, a smile which caused Gabriel to fill with warmth. "Not many humans can see us, and the ones that can are special. And it is more than that with you. I could sense it. You are important. You're going to do incredible things. I thought you deserved something that would make doing those things just a little bit easier." Gabriel smiled and began to look around at where he was, silently gesturing with his head and hands. "This is an amazing gift. I don't know how to thank you. I feel truly blessed. I almost don't feel like I deserve this." The angel smiled and chuckled. Her laugh was so pure and beautiful to witness. Gabriel couldn't help but laugh with her. "All of you humans say the same thing. It has been a long time since the last human was given the gift of flight. About 100 years, or more." "Oh, wow. So, are you the one that does it? Giving these gifts, I mean? Is it like your job?" The angel calmly shook her head. Her silky hair spilled into the air between them, and a long lock slightly brushed across Gabriel's face, which caused a shiver to run down his spine. "No, this is actually my first time granting a human a divine gift. Well, second time, I guess, if you count the roses. First time gifting wings, though." "Roses? Well, I'm honored." They both smiled. "Oh, my name is Gabriel, by the way." He held out his hand to shake hers. She stretched her arm out and gently wrapped her fingers around his hand. The touch of her skin was unreasonably soft. It was almost as if Gabriel was grasping air. "Luna, it is nice to meet you, Gabriel. I know another by your name. I think the two of you would get along." Gabriel chuckled a bit. "So, I'm guessing you're talking about the Archangel Gabriel?" She nodded. Gabriel cracked an amusing smile and chuckled. It is real then? Heaven? So, God is real?" She nodded again. "As real as you and I. As real as the earth below. As real as the clouds that surround us and the sky above our heads. God is watching this moment right now, probably most intrigued." She smiled again, the white of her teeth practically glowing. Gabriel let out a deep breath of surprise, which gently pushed him back into a wisp of cloud. while Luna silently followed.
Whew. So that's an important question confirmed. Wow. Heavy. Luna smiled as she followed him, her wings softly beating. Can I ask another question?
Of course.
She chuckled and nodded. You said I'm important. How so? Luna's gaze unfocused, and she made a face as if trying to figure out how to answer that question.
I cannot tell you that part. Some things need to remain a bit of a mystery to you, and you already have more answers than most humans ever receive. You have Adam's journal, after all.
Gabriel was surprised to hear this. How do you know that?
We observe everyone. We know what transpires on Earth. Not much avoids our watchful eyes.
So, who or what exactly is Adam?
He is different. Not from here. His existence confuses even us.
Gabriel felt quite unsatisfied with that answer. It seems as if he's an alien or something, from what I've read. Luna shook her head again.
Not an alien. Something else. It might shock you to learn. Even God does not know what he is.
This admission made Gabriel's eyebrows raise in surprise. Really? A question that even God can't answer? That's... wow.
Luna's silent stare continued, meeting Gabriel's eventually, which caused the man to slowly chuckle again.
I guess I'll leave that question alone for now.
Do you have any more? I am enjoying our conversation,
she told Gabriel. He smiled and nervously looked away. Well, yeah, actually. What were you doing in my neighbor's backyard?
Rosemary?
Gabriel nodded.
Planting the healing blue roses. I have been planting them all over Earth for the past few centuries, in places where they are needed most, near important people. She has a part to play in this story as well.
What story?
Luna turned and faced the sky. Her eyes closed as the sun's rays danced across her flowing hair. The one that comes next. The story that starts it all. She whispered and turned back to him. There is only so much I can tell you. Gabriel held up his hands.
While I am curious, I won't pester you. They both smiled again, and Luna was opening her mouth to speak. When a sudden and loud trumpet sound echoed across the sea of clouds. Luna's eyes shot up to the heavens above, and she stared for a long moment,
transfixed by something the human could not see.
Gabriel tried to find what she was looking at, but the sun's rays blinded him.
I must leave now, Gabriel. But Can I see you again tomorrow? I have enjoyed your company.
This made Gabriel's heart flutter, and he could feel his face blush. Absolutely. Where, do you want to meet?
Up here. Just fly around. I will find you.
The whole day seemed to be just a vivid dream, existing within Gabriel's mind. The man's life lingering within a surreal daze. His body seemed to be stuck on autopilot, which brought him back to his home
as the stars revealed themselves in his wake. The man fixed himself some dinner, unaware of how hungry he was, and ate it in silence. The angel, Luna, the only thing consuming his thoughts. She's incredible. The most amazing person I've ever met. It took a few minutes of Mickey pushing her metal bowl across the kitchen floor with silent complaints about the lack of food for Gabriel to finally notice. "Sorry, Mickey. Just a bit distracted," Gabriel said to his pug before filling her bowl full of dried kibble. After his dinner, Gabriel decided to try and get some sleep, but his bed was in pieces. So instead, he was forced to set up an air mattress in the living room. Mickey kept trying to jump up onto the bed, but Gabriel kept the pug away, not wanting her nails to pierce the mattress. As he went to lay down for the night, however, he stopped, considering another alternative he had not thought of. I wonder if I could do that. Instead of using the mattress, Gabriel let himself fall back into an airy elemental embrace and positioned himself over the makeshift bed, just in case he fell. Let's see if this works. The weightless feeling soon caused Gabriel to drift away into the realm of dreams, where he had the best night's sleep of his entire life. And when he woke, he found he had drifted into his hallway, waking from the contact he made with the roof after slowly brushing against it. He yawned and tethered himself to the ground again before making his way to the bathroom. I am never going to sleep in a bed again after that night. After cooking up a special breakfast, Gabriel flew up to where he thought was the same area he had met Luna. He wasn't sure. It all looked the same to him up here. The man impatiently waited to meet the angel, and after only a few minutes, he heard a gentle voice coming from behind him. "Good morning, Gabriel." The soothing tone of it drifted through the winds around him. Gabriel turned and smiled when he saw Luna floating before him, her white wings flicked forward, sending a gust of wind into him as they slowly beat against the currents. "Good morning, Luna," Gabriel replied. They both floated in silence for a moment, staring at each other, before Gabriel suddenly remembered something. "Oh, before I forget, I brought you a gift. Well, food, actually." He revealed a blueberry muffin he had made that morning, out from a small bag, and held it in front of her. "Oh, why, thank you," Luna replied, carefully taking the muffin. "I have never eaten earth food before. It looks unique." She smiled as her emerald eyes scanned the object in her hand, and made a face of both curiosity and amusement as she slowly, almost shyly, took the smallest of bites. She chewed for a few moments before her eyes went wide. It is good. Blueberries. Gabriel nodded and chuckled. "Indeed they are." "You should try the blueberries that grow in our gardens. If you made this with some of those, it would be truly incredible. And this is already very tasty. Thank you for sharing this with me, Gabriel. You are very kind." Gabriel blushed slightly. "Well, you're most welcome, Luna." The two conversed while Luna finished the muffin, slowly drifting with the currents, not realizing they had already covered miles of distance. When she was done, Luna changed the topic. "So, Gabriel," she said to him, her lips formed a sudden and playful smile. "You are gifted at flying. You are very good. You seem to have figured it out rather fast. Faster than most. Would you like to race with me?" "A race? Against you?"
I feel like I would lose that race, Gabriel admitted, and they both laughed.
Only one way to find out,
Luna told him, her enchanting eyes silently observing, waiting to see how he would react. Well then, I guess we're racing. Luna chuckled and flew next to him, stopping only a couple of feet from his left side. Once again, the closeness of her presence brought back the swarm of butterflies that rapidly filled him with a delightful sensation. The most pleasant fragrance drifted from her, and the slight glow of the magical light that emanated from her gave off a soft warmth.
On the count of 3, then.
Wait, where are we racing to?
No end goal. Just for fun.
Sounds good. The two of them shot forward at incredible speed, Luna instantly taking the lead. Gabriel didn't want to fall behind, so he began to push himself to even faster speeds than he had ever gone before. His eyes watered against the whipping winds as he dodged boulders and pillars of fluffy clouds, trying to keep up with the angel ahead of him.
Come on, Gabriel. I know you can fly faster than that.
Luna laughed and dove into a wave of curling cumulus as it crashed against a wall of white. Gabriel flew after her, barrel rolling into the cloud, and was consumed by a veil of obscuring mist. The moisture in the air slicked the man's blonde hair back along with his rushing movement through the sky. When he emerged, Luna was gliding upside down and running her hand against the underside of a bed of clouds, causing a slow line to appear and the edges to swirl away. "Wait up there, Luna!" Gabriel shouted after her and found the power within himself to speed up even faster. There was actually a look of genuine surprise on Luna's face when she spotted Gabriel closing the distance between them, before she suddenly bolted up, disappearing. The man shot up after her and found himself emerging into the world above, a realm coated in the golden light of the morning sun. The clouds below were a perfect pink and endless as always, yet more beautiful than ever. Gabriel, caught in a moment of heavenly transfixion, began to slow down, forgetting that he was racing an angel.
Gabriel!
Luna called out to him across the kingdom of clouds.
What are you doing over there?
Her voice brought the human back to reality, and he turned to face her with a smile. "Just admiring the view. This is incredible!" He shouted back at her and began to fly towards the angel again. Her wings rapidly beat against the air as she flew backwards, Gabriel getting closer and closer, soon within a couple of feet from each other. They both stared into each other's eyes as they flew, a moment that seemed to slow down time itself. Before Luna smiled again and fell back into a dive through a whirlpool of churning clouds. Gabriel paused for a moment before nose-diving after her, watching the walls of the white well spin around him as he let himself go into a free fall. At first, it was just him in the spinning tunnel, enjoying the sensation of skydiving. When beyond the curling curtain emerged Luna, surprising Gabriel with her sudden appearance.
Boo!
She giggled at his spooked reaction before he joined in with her. Gabriel playfully reached out and Luna did as well, each one grasping the other's hands. The two of them spiraled through the air as they fell hundreds of feet, before coming to a slow and steady stop above the city of Atlanta. "Whoa!" Gabriel said in surprise when he looked down. "We've come a long way." "Huh! Ha! Guess this is how I'm going to travel from now on.
The two of them spent the entire day and the following days flying around this untouched domain, Luna finding new ways to show off this incredible realm to Gabriel. The entire thing was such a new and otherworldly experience for him. The wonders of the day never seemed to end, and every minute spent with Luna was a minute not wasted. They explored the city below, careful to avoid detection. They explored the approaching storm clouds they saw in the distance, watching the display of lightning below as the cracking thunder rolled up from beneath them. They explored even higher and higher to the point where Gabriel finally had to stop from the lack of oxygen. And they explored their new relationship. What had started off as an otherworldly friendship had blossomed into something wondrous and even frightening in a good way. This was something new for the both of them. Gabriel and Luna's feelings towards each other became obvious, yet neither of them seemed to want to initiate the next step. A childish shyness seemed to keep the two apart in the beginning, but time only brought them closer and closer. And the day finally came where their hands met, their fingers carefully and gently intertwining, their eyes gazing into the depths of the other's. And when the slowest of movements of their faces began, slowly drifting toward the others, Luna pulled her face and body away, staring into the sky above her. She was being called away again, to return home. Gabriel did not want her to go, but he knew there was only a small fraction of time that she was allowed to remain here. And she was using it up for him, which she had also explained was against the rules. But she disobeyed them for him. An angel and human romance. Some of the past attempts at such a union had not ended well, but Luna did not care. She wanted to spend what time she was allowed with Gabriel, and Gabriel wanted to give all of his to her. But unfortunately, it seemed her time had run out. I have to go, Gabriel, she told him, her eyes flickering back and forth, trying to absorb as much from this moment as she could, every second adding another detail into this memory, one that she could go back and relive again and again. And Gabriel did the same. I understand. Will I see you again? Luna smiled the same beautiful smile as always, one that Gabriel could never get tired of seeing, one that he would never forget. Of course, she whispered, and slowly began to drift back towards him. Her head tilted forward, and her eyes gazed up into his. Her lashes fluttered like the butterfly wings in Gabriel's stomach. The angel's face came within inches of Gabriel's, and the human found his eyes slowly closing Their lips met with the gentlest connection, soft and warm, a beautiful yet forbidden kiss. Gabriel could explain this experience in a million ways, but only one word could fit what the kiss meant to him. Everything. When Luna pulled away from the passionate embrace, Gabriel kept his eyes shut, still pleasantly paralyzed by the moment, and at the same time, unwilling to see her go. He heard her voice softly whisper a sweet message into his ear, before feeling the gentle gust of air from her wings as she ascended back to the heavens above. I will find you